Hello, thanks for selecting this training. This training is titled Communication Skills, Spread the Word and Be Heard. During training, it's always a good idea to have a sheet of paper so you can take notes or write questions that may arise. Also, never hesitate to contact your supervisor, your department director, or the HR department with questions. If at any time you need to pause this training, the bottom of the presentation is a pause button. Being able to completely exchange information is a fundamental skill for all supervisors. While you may seldom need to give a high-powered professional level speech from these communications. After this training program, you should be able to describe how to use active listening, develop objectives around which to structure your communication, design a well-developed speech to an audience. A supervisor's success depends in part on being able to effectively communicate with his or her employees and managers. In addition, supervisors often represent the company to customers or suppliers. Supervisors who can clearly communicate instructions, policies, and procedures better promote improved productivity and quality. When you have good communication skills, everyone should get the information that they need. Being able to completely exchange information is a fundamental skill for all supervisors. This presentation will provide an overview of the main skills that support effective communication. We'll be discussing listening skills, setting communication objectives, and our speaking skills. Section 2, Listening Skills. All good communication starts with listening. Have you ever tried to get your point across when someone else doesn't stop talking? It's frustrating if someone doesn't stop talking and are actively listening to what you have to say. Sometimes you're the only one talking, but it's obvious your audience is only pretending to pay attention. These two communication problems are really listening problems. Consider listening. When you listen, stop other activities. Concentrate on your thought on the speaker. Turn your head and your body so you're looking at the speaker. Try and remain silent. Instead, use facial expressions and body language so the speaker can pick up on clues as to your comprehension or when you may have a question or a comment. Over the phone, periodically make brief comments to acknowledge that you're listening. When the speaker has finished, briefly summarize. Acknowledging another person's thoughts and feelings does not mean that you agree with him or her. You can still state your point when it's your turn to talk. By practicing good listening skills, you show the respect that you would like to receive when you speak. Section 3. To be effective, know your communication objectives. You can't really expect people to listen to you if you don't get to the point. Whether you're talking to a coworker or customer, writing a letter or a memo, delivering a presentation, or sending an email, make sure the shipment arrives by the end of the month is a pretty clear objective. However, other objectives may not be so obvious. Perhaps you have to explain a new policy, but you don't quite understand it yourself, and you're pretty sure you don't completely agree with it. Take the time to be sure of what you need to say before you attempt to say it. This ensures the communication is worthwhile for both you and those who are receiving it. As you set your objectives, you should also compile information that will back up your statements in case you're challenged. Help you structure your message to ensure the audience takes whatever action you hope they take. By having a clear objective, you can better identify your audience. Make sure your communication is received by everyone who needs that information. Communication has to be appropriate for the audience that you're talking to. Perhaps you want to let your employees know how a certain project is coming along. You have an industry trends analysis and lots of data on costs and projected usage. If you communicate to your employees using the same detailed-oriented presentation that you gave at the other meeting, you'll probably have to wake up your workers. Their mild curiosity. Once you have set your communication objectives, frame it with an approach that is appropriate to your audience. This requires careful consideration. As you decide on your communication approach, you should consider who is going to hear or read this, what do I know about them, what do they know about me, and what do they know about the topic. How much interest do they actually have in this particular topic? Also, are there any educational, language, or cultural barriers to overcome in order to communicate this information effectively? Can I anticipate their reaction to this information? All these questions should be answered well-reasoned and fair. Here are some suggestions on how to deliver communication that could be met with disagreement. Start by presenting the problem, but not the final decision. Present the different opinions that were rejected and state why. For instance, process X, Y, and Z was considered, but it was too expensive. Process Z, Y, and X, although having some production benefits, would create additional safety hazards. Towards the end of the communication, present the option that has been chosen. Give the reason. Sure it is not offensive. One of the greatest roadblocks to communication is lack of tolerance and respect for the diversity of others. Biased language can cause your audience to focus on how you say something rather than what you are saying. Avoid gender-biased pronouns when you're not talking about a specific person. Instead of using singular nouns and pronouns as in, everyone must turn in his timesheet Thursday, choose one of the following options instead. Use the plural form for both nouns and pronouns. Employees must turn in their timesheets on Thursday. Omit the pronoun altogether by using the passive voice. Timesheets must be turned in on Thursday. And switch from the third person, he, to the second person, you, when this shift is appropriate for what you're writing. Ideally, choose pronouns that counter prevail stereotypes. Avoid gender-biased nouns by using terms like chairperson instead of chairman, or flight attendant instead of stewardess. In addition to avoiding gender-based language, avoid using language that describes someone's race or disability. There is usually no reason to tell a customer or blind sales rep will be calling you when such descriptions are necessarily and your audience keep up with current usages. Changes occur frequently for some terms, and sometimes there are disagreements about the proper term within certain groups. By avoiding discriminatory language, you'll avoid accusations. Technological advances that have not reduce the need to be able to produce effective written communication. Most of us will never write a great American novel, but anyone can learn to make an the tone. How are the ideas presented? What was the writer's objective? And how was it achieved? Keep a copy of communications you find to be particularly well done. Use these good examples to help you structure your own writing. Practice may not make perfect, but it certainly does make you better. Take advantage of opportunities to write. Volunteer to write the report next time. The more you write, the easier it will become, and the better your writing will become. Finally, proofread, and then proofread. Doing it should be proportional to the importance of your document. Even a 2-line email should be read thoroughly at least once before you hit the send button. You'll want to carefully proof a major report several times. Sometimes reading the document out loud can help you find errors. You can also ask a coworker to proofread it again. No matter how careful you are, a second pair of eyes will often catch errors you may have missed. Always use your computer's grammar and spell checker, but never trust them to do the whole job. Follow these steps to create your document. Keep your objective in mind as you write. When you're done, review the document to make sure that you did meet your objective. Do the necessary research before you start writing. The entire writing process can be stifled if you attempt to begin writing without all the information that you need. Organize your material. Put the materials you've gathered. Ask yourself who, what, when, where, why, and how. Your audience will be asking these questions as they read your communication. Make sure that you're telling the whole story. Decide on a format. Does this need to be a memo, or would a letter be more appropriate? Is a full report needed? Would tables or graphs convey the information better than paragraphs or lists? Should the communication be sent electronically, or should print copies be delivered? It's important to develop an outline. This will help your communication flow more naturally. Group similar topics and thoughts together. Ensure your main topic or thought gets adequate attention in the communication. Refer to it in the introduction and again in the conclusion. Edit the draft. Cut out unnecessary words, phrases, and sentences. Your reader's time is valuable, so don't waste it. It's helpful to have a dictionary or a grammar guide handy at this step. Write the final copy. Proofread and fact-check facts again. This is especially important when dealing with numbers. Check all figures against the original source. Good communication won't happen unless you develop good speaking skills. Fear of public speaking is common. You can take steps to improve your speaking skills and become less nervous about speaking. First, relax. Breathe deeply and slowly, expanding your diaphragm as you breathe in and contracting as you breathe out. Take a few private moments before you speak to visualize yourself giving the perfect speech. Instead of speaking to a room full of people, pick out a few friendly faces at different spots in the room and speak directly to them. Also, speak more often. The more you do it, the less you will fear it. Some people join groups such as Toastmasters, or they volunteer to speak at their favorite topic at a social organization. Also be prepared. Know your subject. Determine your objective and make sure your final speech meets the objective. Gather needed information before structuring the oral communication. Make certain your information is current. Again, identify your audience. This will help you select a tone and language to meet the appropriate level of formality. Practice to make sure your speech is the right length. Provide handouts to help the audience follow along with your main points if appropriate. You can use audio or visual aids to clarify information and make the presentation more interesting. Structure handouts and audio-visual aids so that they correspond with your speech. Develop notes and a writing transcript when needed. And as you speak, glance at notes sparingly. Make sure that you practice your communication. Look for any distracting behaviors you may be using while speaking, such as shifting from leg to leg, moving your hands, or saying before each sentence. Practice using silent pause instead of or your other favorite verbal placeholder. During practice sessions, make changes as needed. You can easily pronounce everything. Is your speech too long or too short? Do you build to a solid conclusion? Don't try to make your draft speech work if your practice reveals that it doesn't. It takes some effort to work and rework speeches, but it will help your communication be more effective and easier to deliver. Brush up on your communication skills will help you make sure the right information gets to the right people. Clear, concise messages are easy to understand and to follow. Listening skills, setting communication objectives, and knowing your audience. We also spoke about having